At a family gathering, my daughter-in-law discovered I had $2.2 million. In seconds, the same people who insulted me were on their knees, begging for my help. Today, I'm going to tell you something I never thought I would. And if, for just a second, you feel like this sounds familiar, I only ask that you leave a like and subscribe. It will help me continue to unburden my soul. My name is Teresa Ann Miller. I'm 66 years old and I live, or lived, in Montclair, New Jersey. For 43 years, my life was about one thing: serving. Serving my husband, serving my children, serving anyone who crossed the threshold of my home with a need and a promise of affection. This morning, I woke up at 5:30, just like every day for as long as I can remember. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen while my hands, wrinkled hands, with age spots that weren't there before, stirred the cinnamon into the grounds. I used the old ceramic pot I inherited from my mother, the same pot where she made coffee for my father for 30 years, until the day he died without saying thank you even once. I swore my life would be different, that my marriage would be different, that my children would value me. How wrong I was. The house smells of freshly baked biscuits. I made them myself, from scratch, the way my grandmother taught me in Savannah when I was a girl. 3 dozen. Jacob, my oldest son, says the ones from the can are more practical, but Claire, my daughter-in-law, says that if I'm going to cook, I should at least do it the right way. So I get up before the sun to have them warm when they wake up. No one comes down for breakfast. Jacob rushes out with his Italian leather briefcase, the one I bought him when he got promoted. "No time, Mom," he says without looking at me. Claire comes down in designer sweatpants, her phone in her hand, and barely shoots me an annoyed glance. "Oh, Teresa, so many biscuits again. Don't you see Jacob is on a diet?" I feel the words get stuck in my throat. I want to tell her that Jacob isn't on a diet, that he ate 3 slices of pizza on the street last night. I want to tell her that I've been standing for 2 hours, with a back that doesn't obey me like it used to, just so they could have a decent breakfast. But I say nothing. I never say anything. "I'm sorry, Claire. I'll make less tomorrow." She doesn't even answer. She grabs an apple from the fruit bowl, that hand-painted ceramic bowl I bought at a craft fair in Vermont 30 years ago, and goes to her room. I hear the door close. It's not a slam, but the sound echoes in my chest as if it were. I wrap the biscuits in a clean dishcloth. I know I'll throw them in the trash tomorrow because they'll be hard, but I can't help it. Something in me keeps thinking that if I cook enough, if I try hard enough, someone will notice me. Someone will say, "Thanks, Mom. This is delicious." Those words never come. I live with Jacob and Claire in this house. In my house. The one I bought with the money from selling the land my father left me. The house where I raised my 3 children, where we celebrated birthdays and Christmases, where I hung every picture and painted every wall. But since Claire arrived 7 years ago, the house has stopped being mine. Now I'm Teresa, as if I were the help, as if my name wasn't on the deed to this property. They live here rent-free. I pay the property taxes, the water, the electricity, the gas. Jacob tells me he contributes by buying the big load of groceries from Costco once a month. But those groceries last a week, and the rest of the month, it's me who goes to the local farmer's market, carrying heavy bags on the bus because I can't afford an Uber every time. Claire redecorates without asking my permission. Last month, she took down the photos of my parents from the living room. She said they made the house look old. I found them in the basement, covered in dust, next to the Christmas decoration boxes that no one uses anymore. I cried there in the dark, hugging the picture frame of my mother. No one asked if I was okay. Today is Thursday. Thursdays are the worst days, because Claire hosts her book club in the living room, and I have to disappear. I lock myself in my room, the smallest room in the house, the one that used to be the storage closet, and listen to their laughter, the clinking of wine glasses, the smell of imported cheeses that I never get to taste. Once I went downstairs because I needed a glass of water. I was thirsty. I had walked from the market under the midday sun and my head was pounding. "Oh, Teresa, we're in the middle of something important," Claire said in front of all her friends. "Can you wait a little while?" Her friends looked at me with pity, or with mockery. I can't tell the difference anymore. I went back to my room without the water. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. There, in that crack running across the plaster, I saw my entire life. Broken, ignored, about to collapse. Jacob gets home at 10 at night. He smells of a perfume that isn't Claire's. I don't even bother saying anything anymore. I learned that adult children don't want advice from their mothers. They just want their mothers to disappear when they're no longer needed. "Did you have dinner, sweetie?" I ask from the kitchen. "Yeah, Mom. I already ate." A lie. I know it's a lie because I made slow-cooked brisket, his favorite since he was a boy, and not a single plate was touched. But I don't insist anymore. I cover the pot and put it in the fridge. Tomorrow, Claire will say it smells funny, and throw it out without asking me. I sit at the dining room table. This mahogany table that my husband and I bought when we got married. This is where my children ate breakfast before school. This is where Jacob did his homework while I made him hot cocoa. This is where we celebrated his college graduation, his first job, his wedding. Now I eat alone, always alone. In the drawer of the sideboard, I keep something that nobody knows about. A manila envelope. Inside are documents that changed my life 3 months ago, but I haven't yet had the courage to share them with anyone. On March 14th, a Tuesday like any other, I went to the 7-Eleven to pay my utility bill. While waiting in line, I saw the lottery tickets behind the counter. I don't know why, but I bought one. Just one. $2 that pained my soul because those $2 were for my bus fare for the whole week. On March 18th, I checked the numbers in the newspaper the neighbor leaves on the porch. I had to read them 3 times, 4, 5. My hands were shaking so much that I dropped my coffee. $22 million. $2.2 million. I cried. I screamed. I knelt in my room and thanked God, the Virgin Mary, my dead mother, anyone who was listening. I thought, this is it. Now my children will be proud. Now I can help them. I'll buy Jacob the truck he wants. I'll pay for Lauren's master's degree. And Daniel, my youngest son who fled to London because he wasn't wanted here anymore. I'll send him money to start his business. I thought the money would make me visible. How foolish I was. I still haven't said anything. I've kept the secret for 3 months. I claimed the prize with the help of a lawyer recommended by Mr. Henderson, the owner of the local print shop. I opened a new account at a different bank. No one knows. Yesterday was my 66th birthday. No one remembered. Well, that's not entirely true. My neighbor Beatrice, that gossipy woman who is always watering her plants when I leave, wished me a happy birthday in the morning. "Happy birthday, Teresa. Are you celebrating with your kids?" I smiled at her. "Yes, Bea. Of course." A lie. I prepared my favorite brisket. The one my grandmother taught me to make. The one that takes hours of slow cooking. I bought a cake from the Sweet Life Bakery, the one next to the church. A coconut cream cake, my favorite. I decorated the table with the embroidered tablecloth I made when Jacob was born. I put flowers in the center, red carnations from the market, and lit the candles on the candelabra I inherited from my mother-in-law. I put on my embroidered blouse from my trip to Santa Fe, the blue one with yellow flowers, the one I only wear on special occasions. I put on the red lipstick I bought 6 months ago and have barely used. I carefully styled my hair, gathering it into a low bun, the way I liked to wear it when I was young. I sat down to wait. I waited at 3 in the afternoon. Nothing. At 5. Nothing. At 6:30, a text from Jacob. "Can't make it, Mom. Claire is tired. We'll celebrate another day." Not a phone call. Not a voice message. Not even a happy birthday with capital letters. I stared at the cake, the unlit candles, the brisket getting cold in the pot, and then I did something I had never done before. I served a plate just for myself. I sat at the head of the table, the place my husband always sat, the place I never dared to occupy even after we divorced, and I ate alone. The brisket tasted like tears. That night, before sleeping, I opened my nightstand drawer. I took out the 2 envelopes I had prepared with so much love. Each contained a check for $50,000. One for Jacob, one for Lauren. There were also 2 binders for new houses I had put deposits on. One in a suburb near Asheville for Jacob, another near Charlotte for Lauren. I was going to give them to them on my birthday. I was going to say, "This is for you, because I love you, because I want you to be happy." But there was no birthday. There wasn't even a text message. I put the envelopes away again, and something inside me, something that had been silently cracking for years, finally broke completely. 3 days after my forgotten birthday, I was at the farmer's market buying tomatoes when my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I answered. I always answer, just in case it's an emergency with one of my kids. "Mrs. Teresa Miller?" asked a professional female voice. "Yes, this is she. This is Hackensack University Medical Center. Your daughter Lauren gave us your number as an emergency contact. She was in a car accident this morning." The world stopped. The tomatoes fell from my hands and rolled across the dirty market floor. The woman selling kale looked at me with concern, but I was no longer there. My mind was in that hospital, imagining the worst. Is she okay? Is she alive? I could barely articulate the words. "She's stable, but she needs surgery. A fractured femur. Can you come?" I left everything and ran. I took an Uber, the money didn't matter anymore, and got to the hospital in 20 minutes that felt like 20 years. Lauren was on a gurney in the emergency room. Her face was pale, her arms were bruised, and her eyes, those eyes she inherited from my mother, were filled with pain. "Mom," she whispered when she saw me. For the first time in years, she called me Mom and not Teresa. "I'm here, my love. I'm here." I stroked her hair, trying not to cry in front of her. A young doctor approached with a tablet in his hand. He explained that Lauren needed surgery urgently, that they had to put in plates and screws, that the cost was high and her insurance only covered a portion. "How much do I have to pay?" I asked without hesitation. $18,000. Today. I'll pay it. Right now. The doctor blinked in surprise. Lauren also looked at me with wide eyes. I took out my card, the new one, from the account with the prize money, and paid without trembling. I signed all the papers. Lauren was going to be okay. That was all that mattered. The operation lasted 4 hours. I stayed in the waiting room, praying with the rosary I've carried in my purse since my mother died. The worn beads passed through my fingers as I murmured. Hail Marys I knew by heart. I called Jacob. He didn't answer. I sent him a text. Nothing. I called Claire. It went to voicemail. I called Daniel, my youngest son, the one in London. He answered. "Mom? What happened?" His voice sounded genuinely worried. I told him everything. I heard him stifle a sob on the other end of the line. "And Jacob? Where's Jacob?" "I don't know, honey. He's not answering." "Mom, I can't believe them. How can they be like this?" I had no answer. Only tears. Lauren came out of surgery at 11 at night. The doctor said everything went well, that in 3 months she could walk again. They let me see her for only 5 minutes because she was in recovery. "Mom," she said in a weak voice, drowsy from the anesthesia. "Thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "You don't have to repay me anything, my love. That's what mothers are for." She took my hand. Her cold fingers squeezed mine. And for a moment, I felt like we were back to what we used to be, before she married that man who made her pull away from me, before she told me I was too dramatic and that I exaggerated things. I stayed at the hospital all night. I slept, or tried to sleep, in a plastic chair in the waiting room. My back ached, my legs hurt, but I didn't care. My daughter was up there alone and I wasn't going to leave her. At 6 in the morning, Robert, Lauren's husband, arrived. He showed up in gym clothes, as if he'd been working out instead of being with his wife at the hospital. "Where were you?" I asked, unable to contain the reproach in my tone. "I had a tennis tournament. Couldn't cancel," he said without looking me in the eye. "Besides, I knew you'd be here. I knew you'd be here." As if that justified his absence. As if I were the automatic replacement for his responsibility as a husband. "Your wife needs you," I said in a trembling voice. "Not me. You." "Oh, Teresa, don't start with your drama. Lauren is fine. The doctor said so." He turned his back on me and went up to the room. I stood there, my worn purse hanging from my shoulder, feeling the exhaustion of my 66 years crash down on me all at once. 3 days later, when Lauren was recovering at home, I received a call from her. "Mom, I need to ask you a favor." My heart sped up. What else could she need? More money? Help with something? "Of course, my love. Tell me." "Rob and I are looking at a house in Charlotte." "It's perfect, Mom. It has a yard, 3 bedrooms. It's in a gated community, but they're asking for a $50,000 down payment. Do you think you could lend it to us? Silence. Mom, are you there? Yes, I'm here. We just thought that with the sale of your house you could help us. After all, you live with Jacob. You don't need that much space. And you're getting older, Mom. What do you need such a big house for? I felt something twist inside my chest. A real, physical pain, as if a knife had been stabbed into me and was being turned slowly. Lauren, I just paid for your surgery. $18,000. I know, Mom, and I appreciate it. But this is different. It's an investment. An opportunity. Rob says if we don't take it now, we'll lose it. And what about me? Where will I live if I sell my house? Well, with Jacob, like I said. Or you could rent a little apartment. Something small. You don't need more. A little apartment. Something small. As if I were a piece of furniture to be shoved into the smallest possible space. I'll think about it, I said in a neutral voice. Okay, but don't take too long. The owner has other interested buyers. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in the living room of my house. My house. The one I bought with my own money. The one I painted, decorated, and cleaned for 30 years. And now my daughter whom I had just saved with almost $20,000, was asking me to sell it to give her the down payment for her house. I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, remembering. I remembered when Lauren was 5 and got pneumonia. I sold my engagement ring, the only valuable gift my husband had ever given me, to pay the hospital bill because we didn't have insurance. I remembered when she wanted to go to college. I worked double shifts at a clothing factory for 4 years to pay her tuition at a state university. My hands were ruined from so much sewing, but she got her degree. I remembered her wedding. I spent my entire savings, $20,000 I had saved over 20 years, to give her the party she dreamed of. A live band, a caterer, an imported dress. Everything. And now? Now she was asking for my house. And she said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. The next day, while preparing the breakfast that no one would eat, I heard voices from the living room. It was Claire on the phone. She had it on speaker, so I couldn't help but overhear. Yeah, girl, I'm telling you, I can't stand her anymore. She's here all day, just in the way. Yesterday, I wanted to do yoga in the living room, and there she was, watching her soap operas. I told her to go to her room, and she gave me a look. Laughter from the other side. And Jacob doesn't say anything? Oh, Jacob. Jacob is useless. He doesn't know how to set boundaries with his mom. But I've already talked to him. I told him either she goes or I go. My hand froze in midair, holding the coffee spoon. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. And what did he say? That he was going to talk to her. That he was going to find her a home or something. I heard there are some really nice ones in Asheville. Not too expensive. A home. My son. The child I carried in my womb, whom I nursed, whom I cared for when he had chickenpox and when he broke his arm playing baseball, was planning to put me in a nursing home, in my own house. The biscuits burned on the baking sheet. The smell of smoke filled the kitchen. But I didn't move. I just stood there, spoon in hand, watching the smoke rise to the ceiling. And then, for the first time in my life, I let them burn. I didn't throw them out. I didn't save them. I left them there, charring, while something inside me also burned until it turned to ash. That same afternoon, as I was scraping the burnt biscuits off the pan, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my neighbor, Beatrice. Teresa, can you come over for a minute? I have to show you something. I crossed the small lawn that separates our houses. Beatrice was watering her red geraniums, the ones she cares for as if they were her own children. When she saw me, she put down the hose and pulled her phone out of her apron pocket. I don't know if I should show you this, she said, in that tone people use when they're about to destroy you but want to sound compassionate. But I'd rather you hear it from me than from someone else. She showed me her phone. It was a video on Facebook. I pressed play with trembling hands. The screen filled with band music and colorful lights. It was a party. A big, elegant party. I recognized the garden immediately. The home of Chantal. My ex-husband, Frank, appeared in the center, his arm around her. They were celebrating 20 years together. 20 years since he left me for his secretary. But that wasn't what broke me in two. They were all there. Jacob with Claire, laughing, toasting with champagne. Lauren with Robert, dancing. And my grandchildren. My 3 grandchildren, running through the garden, playing, happy. The camera zoomed in on Sophie, my 7-year-old granddaughter, the youngest. She was sitting on Chantal's lap, hugging her, and then she said it, in that sweet little voice that melted my heart every time she spoke to me. "Grandma Chantal, you're the best. I love you so much." Chantal kissed her on the forehead and held her close. The way I used to. The way I couldn't anymore because no one would let me get close. The video continued. Frank was giving a speech. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate with us. Especially our children, Jacob and Lauren, who have always been with us through thick and thin. You are our family. Our children. Our family. As if I had never existed." I handed the phone back to Beatrice without a word. My lips were trembling so much I couldn't form a sound. "When was this party?" I finally managed to ask. "Last Saturday, Teresa. Last Saturday. My birthday. The day Jacob texted me saying Claire was tired and they couldn't come. They weren't tired. They were celebrating with the woman who destroyed my marriage. They were hugging the man who abandoned me when I needed him most. They were building a new family where I had no place." "Thank you, B," I murmured, and walked back to my house like a zombie. I locked myself in my room. The small room that used to be the storage closet. I opened my nightstand drawer and took out all the photos I kept there. Photos from when my children were little. Jacob on his first day of school, his backpack bigger than him. Lauren at her middle school graduation, smiling with her braces. Daniel, my Daniel, on his 15th birthday, blowing out the candles on a cake I had made with my own hands. When did I lose my children? At what point did I stop being their mother and become their personal bank, their maid, their burden? I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since the day Frank left the house with his suitcases and told me, "I don't love you anymore, Teresa. I never really did. I married you because it was what was expected of me." That night, I didn't go down to make dinner. For the first time in 40 years, I left the kitchen empty. I heard Claire opening and closing the cabinets, huffing in irritation. I heard Jacob tell her, "Just order something from DoorDash." I heard their car pull out of the driveway as they went out to eat. No one knocked on my door to ask if I was okay. The next day, Jacob finally sought me out. It was Sunday morning. I was in my room, still in my pajamas, watching from the window as birds built a nest in the wisteria vine. "Mom, we need to talk," he said from the doorway, without coming in. "Come in," I said in a dull voice. He remained standing, uncomfortable, his hands in the pockets of his designer sweatpants. He didn't even get dressed on Sundays anymore. When he was a boy, I used to iron his church clothes. Now he didn't go to church. He said it was a waste of time. "Claire and I have been thinking," he began, not looking me in the eye. "This house is too big for all of us. And you. You're at an age where you might need more care, more medical attention." I felt my blood run cold. "What are you getting at, Jacob?" "I've been looking at some senior living communities. There's one in Asheville that's really nice. It has gardens, activities, nurses 24 hours a day. It would be better for you." Better for me or better for you? He finally looked at me. His eyes, the same brown eyes he inherited from my father, were filled with discomfort, but also with determination. "Mom, don't make this harder. You know you don't fit in here anymore. Claire complains all the time. The kids don't listen to you. It would be better for everyone if I disappeared." I finished the sentence for him. "It's not disappearing. It's relocating to a place that's appropriate for your age." I stood up from the bed. My knees cracked with the movement, reminding me that I was indeed no longer 20. But I wasn't an invalid either. I wasn't senile. And I wasn't garbage to be thrown out in the most convenient place. "This is my house, Jacob. I bought it. It's in my name." "I know, Mom. That's why I thought, you could sell it to me. I'll give you a fair price. And with that money you can pay for the community and have enough left over for your expenses." There it was. The naked truth, unadorned, without any white lies. They wanted my house. They wanted to kick me out of my own home to keep it for themselves. And you went to Chantal's party? I asked suddenly. He turned pale. His cheeks flushed just like when he was a boy, and I caught him in a lie. Mom, it's not what you think. What is it then? You didn't go to celebrate with the woman who destroyed our marriage? You didn't take my grandchildren to call her grandma? Dad invited us. We couldn't say no. But you can say no to me. You can abandon me on my birthday to go celebrate with them. It's different. Different how, Jacob? Explain it to me. Explain how it's different. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. He was no longer the sweet boy who brought me flowers from the garden. Now he was a stranger who spoke like his father, who reasoned like his father, who treated me like his father had treated me. Dad has money, Mom. He can help us with things you can't. He takes us on trips. He pays for the kids' private school. She's practical. She doesn't spend all her time crying or complaining like you do. Every word was a stab wound. Get out, I whispered. Mom, get out, I shouted, with a strength I didn't know I still had. He left. He closed the door without slamming it, but the sound echoed in my chest as if he had. I collapsed onto the bed. The mattress creaked under my weight. This mattress I had bought 15 years ago, when I still believed that one day Frank would come back, when I still had hope. I had no hope anymore. I had nothing. That afternoon, while Jacob and Claire were out with the children, probably at Frank and Chantal's, I stayed in the living room, on the armchair that Jacob and Claire wanted to throw out because it was old. I took out my phone and opened the banking app. The one nobody knew I had. The one for the secret account. $2.2 million. The number blinked on the screen like a promise, like a possibility, like a way out. I had thought about giving them everything, buying them houses, cars, paying off their debts. I had thought that the money would make them love me again. But now, I understood something I should have understood a long time ago. You can't buy love. You can't buy respect. You can't buy a place in the hearts of people who should have given it to you for free. I dialed a number I had saved for weeks. It was answered on the second ring. Law offices of Peterson and Howe. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Teresa Miller. I'd like to make an appointment to change my will. Of course, Mrs. Miller. When would be a good time for you? As soon as possible, I said, looking at the photos on the wall. The photos where I was still smiling, where I still believed I was loved. Tomorrow, if possible. We have an opening tomorrow at 10 in the morning. I'll be there. I hung up, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something like control. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't peace. But it was something. It was the first step toward something I couldn't yet name, but felt growing in my chest like a seed after a forest fire. It was the first step toward my freedom. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. Not because I had to make breakfast for anyone. This time was different. I woke up because something had changed inside me during the night. Something nameless, but solid, like a rock in the center of my chest. I showered calmly. I put on my navy blue dress, the one I saved for special occasions. I put on makeup in front of the bathroom mirror, looking at the wrinkles around my eyes, the gray hairs I no longer bothered to dye, the age spots on my hands, these hands that had worked so hard, these hands that had given so much. I left the house without making a sound. Claire and Jacob were still asleep. I took an Uber downtown, to the law office a few blocks from the town square. The lawyer was a man in his 50s, with thick glasses and a kind smile. He offered me coffee. I sat across from his dark wood desk, where there were stacks of documents and a photo of his family. A wife, 3 kids, all smiling. Mrs. Miller, how can I help you? I want to change my will, I said in a firm voice. And I want to sell a property. I took out the papers for my house. I spread them on the desk as if they were cards in a game where I had finally decided to bet everything. This house is in my name only. I want to sell it as quickly as possible. The lawyer reviewed the documents with professional attention. Are the other residents of the property aware? No, and they don't need to be. It's my house. I decide what to do with it. He nodded. He didn't ask questions. He didn't judge me. He simply did his job. I can put it on the market today. I have contacts with real estate agencies. A property in Montclair sells fast. We could have a buyer in 2 weeks. Perfect. And the will? I took out a sheet of paper I had handwritten the night before. My hands trembled slightly as I handed it to him. I want to leave everything to my son Daniel, the one who lives in London. He's the only one who still speaks to me like I'm his mother and not his ATM. And your other children? To Jacob and Lauren, I leave nothing. Absolutely nothing. I want that to be made very clear in the document. And I want to donate $2 million to a foundation for elderly women who have been abandoned by their families. The lawyer looked up, surprised for the first time. Those are significant amounts, Mrs. Miller. I won the lottery 3 months ago, I explained with a bitter smile. No one knows, and no one will know until I decide. I understand. Are you completely sure about these decisions? I thought of Jacob asking me to go to a nursing home. I thought of Lauren demanding I sell my house to give her a down payment. I thought of my grandchildren calling Chantal grandma. I thought of all the times I had swallowed humiliations, insults, and contempt, hoping that one day things would get better. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I signed all the papers. Each signature felt like a release, like shedding chains I had been carrying for decades without realizing their weight. When I left the law office, the sun was already high. I walked through the historic downtown, something I hadn't done since I was young. I stopped at a small cafe near the art museum and ordered a hot chocolate and a pastry. I sat by the window, watching people pass by. An elderly couple walked hand in hand. A group of students laughed loudly. A young mother chased her small child who was running among the pigeons. Life, normal life. A life I had forgotten existed outside the 4 walls of my self-imposed prison. My phone buzzed. It was Lauren. Mom, have you thought about the house? Rob says we need an answer this week. I didn't reply. I put the phone back in my purse. It buzzed again. This time it was Jacob. Ma, the real estate agent is coming tomorrow to appraise the house. Open the door when he gets here. I smiled. They didn't know that I had already contacted my own agent, that I had already put my house up for sale, that in 2 weeks, maybe 3, that house would no longer be mine, nor theirs. I returned home in the late afternoon. Claire was in the living room, staring at her phone. She didn't even look up when I came in. Where have you been, Teresa? Jacob was looking for you to make lunch. I was out, I said simply, and walked straight to my room. Out? Where? Her tone was indignant, as if I had committed a crime by leaving my own house without permission. Taking care of some business, I replied without turning around. I heard her huff in annoyance. I locked myself in my room and lay down on the bed. I was tired, but it was a different kind of tired. It wasn't the exhaustion of someone who had given up. It was the exhaustion of someone who has finally made a decision and is paying the price for her courage. That night, Jacob knocked on my door around 11. Mom, are you awake? Yes. He opened the door. He wore an expression I hadn't seen in years. He almost looked worried. Where were you today? I already told Claire. Taking care of business. What business? My own. He was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. Mom, I know we were harsh with you yesterday, but it's complicated. Claire is putting on a lot of pressure. She says if you don't do something about your situation, she's going to leave. And what do you want, Jacob? I asked, looking him directly in the eye. What do you want? Not Claire. You. He seemed confused by the question. I want everyone to be okay. For there to be peace in the house. And for there to be peace, I have to disappear? It's not disappearing, Mom. It's adapting to what we need as a family. As a family, I repeated. Tell me, Jacob, when was the last time you treated me like family? When was the last time you invited me to eat with you? When was the last time the children hugged me without Claire pulling them away? He shifted uncomfortably in the doorway. Mom, don't start with that again. With what? With the truth? Does the truth bother you, son? It bothers me that you always play the victim, as if everything is our fault, as if you're perfect. Those words hit me in the stomach. But this time, I didn't cry. This time, I didn't shrink. This time, I held his gaze until he had to look away. I never said I was perfect, Jacob, but I was your mother. I carried you for 9 months. I gave birth to you in pain. I nursed you. I sold my things to pay for your school. I worked double shifts so you could have new clothes. I cried in secret when your father left so you wouldn't see me as weak. And now you treat me like a burden that needs to be hidden away somewhere it won't bother anyone. Mom, go away, Jacob. I'm tired. I need an answer about the house. The agent is coming tomorrow. Tell him not to come. It's no longer necessary. What do you mean? I mean it's no longer necessary. Good night. I closed my eyes. I heard him stand there for a few more seconds, probably waiting for me to say something else. But I didn't. And finally, he left. The next day, very early, my phone rang. It was the lawyer. Mrs. Miller, I have good news. We already have an interested buyer for your property. They want to see it today. Is that possible? Yes. What time? At 2 in the afternoon. Perfect. I'll be here. Jacob and Claire were out. The kids were at school. I got ready, tidied up the house, and opened the curtains to let the light in. When the buyer, a young businessman with his pregnant wife, arrived, I greeted them with a smile. They toured the whole house. They admired the high ceilings, the garden, the remodeled kitchen. The wife touched the walls tenderly, as if she were already imagining her life there. It's perfect, she told her husband. Our family could grow here. I felt a pang in my chest. A family, a real one, not like mine, which had rotted from the inside out. We'll take it, the man said. What's the asking price? The real estate agent mentioned the figure. The man nodded without haggling. We need to close quickly. My wife is due in 2 months, and we want to be settled before then. That can be done, I said. It can be yours in 15 days. We signed a preliminary contract right there. They gave me a down payment of $50,000. When they left, I stood in the empty living room, holding the check in my hands. 15 days. In 15 days, this house would no longer be mine, and Jacob, Claire, and the children would have to find somewhere else to live. For the first time in months, I truly smiled. The next few days passed in a strange silence. I kept my secret like someone hiding a diamond in their pocket. Jacob and Claire continued their normal lives, unaware that the ground beneath their feet was about to disappear. On Friday night, Claire hosted one of her dinners. She invited her friends from the country club, those women who always looked at me with pity when I ran into them at the grocery store. They arrived with their designer bags and rehearsed laughter. "Oh, Claire, your house is so lovely," one of them said. A bleached blonde with overly long fake nails. Your house. As if Claire had paid a single penny for it. I stayed in my room all night. I listened to their voices, their cackles, the clinking of wine glasses. At one point, one of them asked, "And your mother-in-law? Where is she?" "Oh, in her room. You know how old people are. They get tired early. Old people. As if I were a piece of old furniture to be tolerated until it could be thrown in the trash. On Monday, I got the call I was waiting for. The lawyer confirmed that all the sales papers were ready. The final signing would be on Friday. The money would be in my account that same day. "And is your family aware yet?" he asked cautiously. "They will be soon," I replied. That afternoon, while Claire was at her Pilates class and Jacob was at work, I started packing my things. I didn't have much. 43 years of life reduced to 4 boxes. Clothes, photos, a few books, my mother's rosary, the shawl my grandmother gave me when I got married. I stored everything in the closet, hidden behind old suitcases where no one would look. On Tuesday, Lauren showed up unannounced. She came in with her cane, still recovering from the surgery I had paid for, and collapsed onto the living room sofa as if it were her own. "Mom, we need to talk." I sat across from her, my hands folded in my lap. "Tell me." "Rob and I found the perfect house, but we need your answer. Are you going to help us or not?" "No." She fell silent, as if she hadn't heard me correctly. "What do you mean, no?" "No, Lauren. I'm not going to give you money for your house." Her face transformed. The feigned sweetness vanished, replaced only by rage. "I can't believe you. After everything we've done for you, after putting up with you, inviting you to dinner, after putting up with me?" I interrupted. "Is that what you've been doing? Putting up with me?" "Well, yes, Mom. Honestly, yes. You're exhausting. Always with your drama, always playing the victim, always expecting us to look after you like you're a little girl." Every word was a slap. but they didn't hurt me like they used to. They no longer had the power to destroy me. I see, I said calmly. Anything else you'd like to say? Yes. You're selfish. A selfish woman who only thinks about herself. Dad was right when he left this house. He said you were unbearable. And now I see why. She stood up, leaning on her cane. She walked to the door, but before leaving, she turned. Don't count on me for anything, Mom. We're done. If you won't help me when I ask, then I won't be there when you need me. The door slammed shut with a bang that rattled the windows. I remained on the sofa. I didn't cry. I had no tears left for people who had never truly loved me. On Wednesday, something unexpected happened. I received a video call from Daniel, my youngest son. I answered with a racing heart. His face appeared on the screen. He was in his apartment in London, with the sun streaming through the window behind him. He looked tired, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. Mom, how are you? I'm fine, sweetie. And you? Worried about you. I've been thinking a lot about what you told me about Lauren's hospital stay. About how Jacob didn't answer. Mom, I know I haven't been the best son. I left for London and left you alone with them. You had to live your life, Daniel. I don't blame you, but I should have been more present. I should have called more often. I should have protected you from them. I felt my throat tighten. It's not your responsibility to protect me. Yes, it is. You're my mother, and they're treating you like garbage. I know it. Jacob blocked me months ago because I told him he was being a son of a, well, you know. And Lauren never answered when I asked why they didn't invite you to Dad's party. You knew about that party? They invited me. I told them they were hypocrites and that I'd rather talk to you. That's why they blocked me too. There it was. The confirmation that Daniel was different. That there was at least one child who still saw me as his mother and not his enemy. Daniel, I have to tell you something. I told him everything. About the lottery, the sale of the house, the will. I heard him gasp in surprise on the other end of the line. Mom, did you really do all that? Yes, and I don't regret it. You shouldn't. They deserve it. But where are you going to go when you sell the house? I don't know yet. But I'll be okay. No, he said firmly. Come to London. With me. There's an apartment available in my building. I'll rent it for you. You can be here, start over, see the city. Mom, please, let me do this for you. I cried. For the first time in days, I cried. But they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of knowing I wasn't completely alone, of knowing there was at least one heart in this world that still beat for me. Really, sweetie? Really? I'll send you the money for the ticket today. You can come in 2 weeks. I'll pick you up at the airport. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. When we hung up, I sat with the phone in my hands, smiling. London. A new life. Far from Jacob, Claire, Lauren, Frank, and Chantal. Far from everything that had hurt me. On Thursday, Claire found me packing. I had let my guard down and left a box open in my room. She walked in without knocking as usual. What is this? She asked, pointing at my things. I'm organizing. Organizing for what? To move. She laughed. A sharp, mocking laugh. Move? Where? To that home Jacob found for you in Asheville? No, to London. The laugh froze on her face. London? What are you going to do in London? With what money? That's not your problem, Claire. She stepped closer, crossing her arms over her chest. You're crazy. Completely insane. You're already useless here, and now you want to go to the other side of the world? Who's going to take care of you there? Daniel. Daniel? She practically spat the name. The failure who ran away because he couldn't stand living here? That's your plan? Oh, Teresa, you've really lost your mind. I told you it's not your problem. Yes, it is my problem. Because when you run out of money, when Daniel abandons you like everyone else does, you'll come crawling back. And I won't let you in. Do you hear me? This house is going to be mine, and you will never set foot in here again. I smiled. I couldn't help it. This house won't be yours, Claire. What did you say? I said this house won't be yours. Tomorrow, I'm handing it over to its new owners. A young couple who's having a baby. People who actually deserve a home. The color drained from her face. You're lying. No. I sold the house a week ago. I sign the papers tomorrow. You all have to be out by Friday. You can't do that. Jacob lives here. Your grandchildren live here. It's my house. I can do what I want. And what I want is for you to leave. She stood there, trembling with rage, her fists clenched at her sides. For a moment, I thought she might hit me, but she didn't. She just let out a furious scream and ran out of the room. I heard her frantically dialing her phone. Jacob, your mother has gone crazy. She sold the house. She's going to leave us on the street. Her hysterical voice filled the house. And I continued packing, with a smile on my lips and a peace in my heart I hadn't felt in decades. Jacob came home like a hurricane. I heard the front door slam from my room, his heavy footsteps taking the stairs 2 at a time. He didn't even knock. He threw the door open, his face red with rage. "What did you do?" he screamed. "What the hell did you do, Mom?" I remained seated on the bed, calmly folding a blouse. "Claire told you. I sold the house." "You can't sell this house. We live here." "You lived here," I corrected without raising my voice. "That ends tomorrow. The new owners take possession on Saturday." "This is insane. You're so selfish. Where do you expect my children to live?" "I don't know, Jacob. Maybe in the house you were planning to buy with the money from selling me this property." He went quiet. His eyes widened with guilt. He knew that I knew. He knew I had heard everything. "Mom, that was different. We were going to do it for your own good." "For my good? Putting me in a nursing home and taking my house was for my good?" "It wasn't a nursing home. It was a luxury senior community, with medical care. That I don't need. I'm 66, Jacob, not 80. I'm not sick. I'm not senile. I'm just tired. Tired of you. Tired of us? We've put up with you here. We've given you a roof over your head." The laugh that escaped my throat was bitter, harsh. "A roof? It's my roof, my house. I pay the property taxes, the electricity, the water, the gas. You pay nothing and still complain that I'm in the way. Because you are in the way. Always there, snooping, sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Claire can't even breathe without you hovering over her." "I don't stick my nose in anything. I just exist. And my existence bothers you." Yes, it bothers us." "There, you have it. Happy? Was that what you wanted to hear?" His words hung in the air like broken glass. Finally, the truth. No masks, no excuses, just the pure resentment that had been growing for years. "Yes," I said calmly. "It was exactly what I needed to hear." "Mom, please." His tone suddenly changed, softening. "Don't do this. Think of the kids. Where will they live? What am I going to tell them? I don't know. But I'm sure Frank and Chantal will be delighted to help you. After all, they're so generous. So loving. They had you at their party on my birthday, remember?" He looked down. "I already apologized for that." "No, you never apologized. You just said it was different, that he has money, that she doesn't cry or complain like I do. But it's true. Dad helps us without asking for anything in return. You attach strings to everything. You use everything to blackmail us." "Blackmail you? With what have I blackmailed you, Jacob? With the breakfast I make that no one eats? With the laundry I wash that Claire throws in the hamper like dirty rags? With the love I give you that you spit back in my face? That's enough. You're making a drama out of everything as usual." "It's not a drama. It's my reality, and I don't want it anymore." He ran his hands through his hair, desperate. "How much do you want? Tell me how much you want to not sell the house. It's not about money. Everything is about money. How much? 100,000? 200,000? I'll get it. Just give me time. I don't want your money, Jacob. I want my freedom. You are free. No one has you tied up. Yes, you do. You have me tied to the hope that one day you will love me, that one day I will be enough for you. But I've realized that's never going to happen." Claire appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red from crying, but her gaze was still hard. "Teresa, please. Think about your grandchildren. They love you. They'll suffer if you kick them out of their home." "My grandchildren," I repeated. "The same grandchildren who don't come near me anymore because you told them I smell funny. The same grandchildren who call Chantal grandma and call me Teresa. Those grandchildren. I never said that." "Yes, you did. I heard you. One Sunday afternoon. You told Polly he shouldn't hug me so much because I smelled funny. She had the decency to blush. I didn't mean it. I was angry that day. It doesn't matter, it's done. The damage is done, and I can't fix it. Jacob stepped forward. He tried to take my hands, but I pulled away. Mom, I know we've made mistakes, but we can fix this. Give me a chance. I've been giving you chances for years. Every day I swallowed, a humiliation was a chance. Every night I cried in my room was a chance. Every forgotten birthday, every discarded meal, every insult disguised as concern. It was all a chance. I have nothing left to give. So what? You're just going to leave us on the street like we're trash? I'm not leaving you on the street. You have until Saturday to find a place to live. Jacob, you have a good job. Claire works. You can rent something. You can ask your father for help. You have options. I'm out of them. Of course you have options. You can stay here. We can start over. No, I can't anymore. I don't want to. Claire exploded. You are a bitter old woman. That's why your husband left you. That's why nobody loves you. You're alone because you're unbearable. The words should have hurt. A week ago they would have destroyed me. But now I just heard them like the cawing of a crow. Meaningless noise. You're right, Claire. I am alone. But I'd rather be alone by choice than surrounded by people who hate me. Nobody hates you, Jacob shouted. Then what do you call this? Love? If this is love, I'd rather have hate. They looked at each other, searching for arguments, for something to say. But there was nothing left. The truth was on the table, naked and ugly. Fine, Jacob said finally, his voice breaking. Sell the house. Go wherever you want, but don't come back. When you realize your mistake, when Daniel disappoints you like you think we all do, don't come crawling back. Don't worry. I won't. They left my room. I heard them whispering in the hallway. Then I heard them start to make calls. Jacob calling his father, asking for help. Claire calling her mother, crying with indignation. I kept packing. That night, no one came down for dinner. The house was completely silent. The children must have been confused, wondering why their parents were shouting, why their grandmother, Teresa, was leaving. I made myself a chamomile tea. I sat in the kitchen, at the table where I had eaten alone so many times. I caressed the worn wood. This table had seen so many things. Birthdays, homework, Christmas dinners, and it had also seen my loneliness, my abandonment, my invisibility. Goodbye, I whispered to the table, to the house, to the ghosts of what could have been and never was. Friday arrived. The day of the final signing. I dressed carefully. I put on my navy blue dress, my pearl earrings that had been my mother's. I put on the red lipstick I rarely used. I came down the stairs with my purse in hand. Jacob was in the living room, his eyes red from lack of sleep. Claire was sitting on the sofa, arms crossed, with an expression of pure resentment. Are you going to the signing? Jacob asked. Yes. And after? After, I'm going to a hotel until my flight on Sunday. Do you have your ticket already? Daniel bought it for me. I leave for London on Sunday at 9 at night. Claire let out a bitter laugh. London? How nice. While we're looking for a place to live, you're off on a European vacation. It's not a vacation. It's my new life. New life? At your age, please. It's never too late to start over, I said, looking directly at her. Though I understand why you wouldn't know that. You've spent your whole life living off what other people give you. Her face turned red with fury, but she said nothing. I walked towards the door. Jacob stood up. Mom, wait. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. I just want you to know that I love you, that despite everything, you're my mom. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. If this is how you love your mother, Jacob, I hope your children never love you the way you love me. I walked out of the house. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I knew if I did, I might regret it. My treacherous heart might make me go back, but my legs kept moving. Towards the Uber that was waiting, towards the lawyer's office, towards my freedom. At the law office, I signed all the documents. The young couple was beaming. The wife hugged me. Thank you, Mrs. Miller. This house will be perfect for our family. I know, I said with tears in my eyes. Take care of it. Fill it with love. with laughter, with all the things a house needs to be a home. We will. We promise. When the money hit my account, I stared at the number on my phone screen. The sale of the house plus the $2.2 million from the lottery. I had more money than I had ever dreamed of. But what I had more of was freedom, and that was priceless. I checked into a small hotel in New York City. It wasn't luxurious, but it had everything I needed: a clean bed, a private bathroom, and silence. Blessed silence, with no shouting, no complaints, no glances judging me for simply existing. On Saturday, I woke up without an alarm, without the urgency of making breakfast for anyone. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the clean sheets, listening to the city sounds muffled by the window. For the first time in decades, the day was entirely mine. I went down to the hotel restaurant for breakfast. I ordered eggs Benedict, fresh squeezed orange juice, and a strong coffee. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, without having to get up to serve anyone else, without hearing complaints about the food I had so painstakingly prepared. The waiter was a young man, about 20, with a kind smile. "Anything else, ma'am?" "No, thank you. This is delicious." "I'm glad. You look happy." The comment surprised me. Did I look happy? Maybe I did. Maybe for the first time in years, joy was timidly showing on my face. After breakfast, I went for a walk. I walked through Central Park, looking at the fountains, the trees, the people jogging. I went into a bookstore and bought 3 books without looking at the price. I went into a clothing store and bought myself 2 beautiful blouses in bright colors, not the muted tones I had worn for years to avoid drawing attention. At a cafe, I sat by the window and ordered a cappuccino and a slice of chocolate cake. I took out one of my new books and started to read. An older woman, sitting at the next table, smiled at me. "It's wonderful to have time to read, isn't it?" "Yes," I replied. "It's a luxury I had forgotten existed." I started reading again when my children left home. For years I was so busy raising them that I forgot who I was. Now I read a book a week. "And how does that feel?" I asked. "It feels like being born again." Her words stayed with me for the rest of the day. Being born again. That was exactly what I was doing. In the afternoon, my phone began to vibrate. Messages. So many messages. Lauren. "Mom, Jacob told me what you did. I can't believe it. How could you?" Lauren. "You left your grandchildren homeless. Does that make you feel good?" Lauren. "You are a selfish monster. Dad was right about you." Jacob. "The kids are crying. Asking why Grandma kicked us out. I hope you're happy." Claire. "May God forgive you because I never will." Frank. "Teresa, I heard what you did. You always knew how to be dramatic. That's why we never worked." And finally, a message from an unknown number. I opened it curiously. "Hello, Mrs. Miller. This is Chantal. I don't believe we've ever spoken directly. I just wanted to let you know that Frank and I have decided to help Jacob and his family. We're going to rent them a house while they get back on their feet. The children will be fine. I don't know what happened between you all, but I hope you find peace with your decision." I read the message 3 times. Chantal, the woman who destroyed my marriage, the woman who stole my husband. Now she was also the savior of my children. The irony was so cruel I had to laugh. A dry, humorless laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. I blocked all the numbers, one by one. Jacob, Lauren, Claire, Frank, even Chantal, though her message was the only one not dripping with venom. My phone fell silent. On Sunday, the day of my flight, I woke up early. I checked my suitcase for the 10th time. Passport, ID, the money I had converted to pounds, the address of Daniel's flat in London. I went down for one last breakfast at the hotel. The same young waiter served me. "Are you leaving us today, ma'am?" "Yes. I'm flying to London tonight." "How exciting. A vacation?" "No, I'm moving there." "Really? And your family?" The question caught me off guard. My family. What family? "My family is there," I finally said. "My son is waiting for me." "That's wonderful. I hope I can do something like that someday. Start over in another country." "It's never too late," I told him. "If I can do it at 66, you can do it at 20. He smiled and poured me more coffee. At 4 in the afternoon, the Uber arrived to take me to the airport. The driver was a man in his 50s, with graying hair and a tired smile. "Which terminal, ma'am?" Terminal B. International flight. Going on a holiday? Something like that. During the ride, I looked out the window. We passed neighborhoods I knew, streets I had walked, stores where I had shopped. New Jersey had been my home for 66 years, and now I was leaving it behind. I felt a pang of nostalgia, but not regret. It was the nostalgia of closing a chapter, of saying goodbye to the woman I had been, to make room for the woman I could become. At Newark Airport, I checked in. The young woman at the counter checked my passport. Traveling for pleasure, Mrs. Miller? The greatest pleasure of my life, I replied. I went through security. The TSA agent was all business. I sat in the departure lounge in front of the window overlooking the tarmac. Planes took off and landed, carrying people to new lives, new beginnings. My phone vibrated. It was Daniel. Mom, I'm already on my way to Heathrow to wait for you. Your flight leaves in a few hours, right? I can't wait to see you. I love you. I love you. 2 words I hadn't heard from my other children in years. I replied, Yes, sweetie. I'm at the gate. See you in a few hours. I love you too. An older woman sat down next to me. She was wrapped in a beautiful pashmina shawl. That's a lovely shawl, I said. Thank you. It was my mother's. I always take it when I travel. It brings me good luck. I have one like it from my mother, packed in my suitcase. Where are you traveling to? She asked. To London. To start over. How brave. I'm just visiting my sister in Chicago. But to start over in another country, that takes real courage. Or desperation, I said with a sad smile. Sometimes desperation is the only thing that gives us the courage to do what we should have done years ago. She was right. So right. They announced my flight. I stood up, took my carry-on bag, and walked to the gate. Before handing over my ticket, I paused. I looked back, at the bustling airport, at the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. I thought of Jacob as a baby, sleeping in my arms, of Lauren learning to walk, her little arms outstretched towards me, of Daniel, always the most affectionate, the one who brought me flowers from the garden every Sunday. When did I lose those children? When did those children who loved me turn into the adults who despised me? I had no answer, and it didn't matter anymore. Ma'am, your boarding pass, the flight attendant said. I handed it to her. I walked down the jet bridge. I found my seat by the window. I stored my bag in the overhead bin and sat down. A young couple sat next to me. They were holding hands, smiling, excited. They reminded me of Frank and me when we were young, when we still believed in forever. The plane began to move. I fastened my seatbelt. I watched out the window as we taxied down the runway. The airport lights blurred in the darkness. The captain announced we were ready for takeoff. I felt the plane accelerate, felt the wheels leave the ground, felt New Jersey getting smaller and smaller beneath me. And then something unexpected happened. I began to cry, not from sadness, not from regret. I was crying from relief, from liberation. I was crying for all the years I had carried a weight that was not mine to bear, for all the times I had swallowed humiliation to keep the peace, for all the nights I had wept in silence so as not to bother anyone. The young woman next to me offered me a tissue. Are you all right, ma'am? Yes, I said, wiping my tears. I'm more than all right. I'm free. She looked at me with confusion, but smiled anyway. The plane kept climbing, above the clouds, above everything that had hurt me, above the woman I had been. I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to dream. I dreamed of London, of streets I didn't know, of a life I hadn't yet lived, of a son waiting for me with open arms. I dreamed of being happy, and that was enough. The plane landed at Heathrow at 2 p.m. local time. My legs were shaking as I walked down the steps. It wasn't fear. It was anticipation. It was the strange feeling of walking towards something new, when your whole life has been spent walking in circles. The line for immigration was long. Tourists with their cameras, business people with their briefcases, families with tired children. I stood there, a 66-year-old American woman with an old suitcase and a heart full of hope. The immigration officer checked my passport. Purpose of your visit to the UK? I'm going to live with my son. How long do you plan to stay? I'm not sure. As long as it takes. He looked at me curiously, but stamped my passport without further questions. "Welcome to the United Kingdom, Mrs. Miller." Welcome. The words sounded like music. I walked out into the arrivals hall with my luggage cart. There were so many people waiting. People with signs, flowers, hugs. I searched through the faces until I saw him. Daniel, my son, my baby. Now a 32-year-old man with a beard, glasses, and a huge smile. "Mom!" he shouted, opening his arms. I ran to him. Well, I walked quickly because at my age you don't run like you used to. But in my heart, I was sprinting. We hugged, and I cried. I cried in his arms like I hadn't cried in months. I cried out all the accumulated sadness, all the stored-up pain, all the endured loneliness. "It's over, Mom. It's over," he said, stroking my hair. "You're here. You're with me. You're safe now." Safe. What a beautiful word. Daniel's flat was in Islington, in an old building with a creaky but functional lift. His flat was small but cozy. White walls, simple furniture, lots of books on makeshift shelves. "It's not much," he said, opening the door. "But it's home. It's perfect," I whispered. He showed me the flat he had rented for me. It was in the same building, 2 floors up. A studio with a small kitchen, a tiny bathroom, and a window overlooking an inner courtyard where a fig tree grew. "It's yours for as long as you want, Mom. No pressure, no strings attached." "Daniel, I don't know how to repay you for this. You don't have to repay me anything. I just want you to be happy, to rest, to live the life you deserved to live years ago." That night, we had dinner in his flat. He cooked pasta. It wasn't very good, but I ate every bite because it was made with love. We talked for hours. He told me about his job at a publishing house, about his English friends, about the life he had built far from the toxicity of our family. "Why did you really leave?" I asked him. "You always said it was for work, but I know there was more to it." He sighed. He put his fork down. "I left because I was tired, Mom. Tired of seeing how they treated you. Tired of fighting with Jacob every time I defended you. Tired of hearing Lauren say that you were the problem. And the worst part was feeling that if I stayed, I would end up treating you badly too, as if that cruelty was contagious. You would never have treated me badly," I said, taking his hand. "I don't know, Mom. The poison in that house was so strong, I didn't want to risk it. I preferred to get away. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I left you alone with them. Don't apologize. You did the right thing. You saved yourself. But I left you. And now you're here, welcoming me, giving me a new beginning. That's worth more than all the years before." That night I slept in my new bed, in my new flat, in my new life. The sheets smelled clean, new, like possibility. From the window I could see the starry London sky, so different from New Jersey's, but just as beautiful. And I slept. I slept deeply, without nightmares, without waking in a panic, without the knot of anxiety in my stomach that had been my constant companion for years. The first few days in London were about adjusting. Daniel showed me around the neighborhood, where the grocery store was, the bakery, the pharmacy. He introduced me to his neighbors. Mrs. Gable, a 70-year-old English woman who lived alone with her 3 cats. Ahmed, the owner of the Moroccan restaurant on the corner. Lucy, the young woman who worked at the bookshop downstairs. "Teresa, if you need anything at all, just knock on my door," Mrs. Gable told me the first day we met. "We look after our elders here in London, not like in some other places." I didn't ask what other places she was referring to, but I knew that somehow she understood. One afternoon, while I was having coffee at a cafe, my phone rang. It was a number from the US that I hadn't blocked. I hesitated, but something made me answer. "Hello? Mrs. Teresa Miller?" It was a professional female voice. "Yes, this is she. This is your bank calling. We have a situation. Your son, Jacob Miller, attempted to make a withdrawal from the joint account you hold, but the account has been closed. He is insisting it's a mistake." "It's not a mistake. I closed that account before I came to London. He says he needs the money urgently, that you promised to help him with the rent for his new house." A bitter laugh escaped my throat. "I promised him nothing, and there is no more money for him. I understand. I was just calling to confirm. Is there anything else you need?" "Yes. I want you to block any attempt by that person to contact my accounts. They should not be able to know my transactions, my balances, anything. Of course, Mrs. Miller. We'll take care of that immediately. I hung up. I looked at my cooling coffee. And then I did something I had never done before. I called a number the lawyer had given me before I left. It was for the Foundation for Abandoned Elderly Women, the Golden Hope Foundation. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Miller. 3 weeks ago, I made a donation of $2 million. Mrs. Miller, yes, of course we remember you. Your donation has been incredible. Because of you, we're going to be able to build a new shelter and expand our programs. I'd like to know more about the foundation, about how you help the women. Of course. Would you like to come visit? We're based in North Carolina. I'm in London right now, but I could connect via video call. Perfect. How about tomorrow at 10 in the morning, your time? I'll be there. The next day, from my small flat in London, I connected with the foundation. The director, a woman in her 50s named Patricia, showed me the facilities through her phone. Women of all ages were there. Some young, others my age. All with similar stories. Families that had used them, exploited them, abandoned them. Here they learned trades, Patricia explained. Sewing, baking, computer skills. We give them tools so they can be independent, so they never again have to depend on children or husbands who treat them like property. I saw a woman in her 70s embroidering a beautiful tablecloth, another learning to use a computer, another teaching a cooking recipe to a younger group. They are survivors, Patricia said. And thanks to your donation, we're going to be able to help so many more. Can I keep helping? I asked. Can I be part of this somehow? Really? Would you like to be on the board? We need people who understand what these women go through. And you? You understand, don't you? More than I'd like to, I admitted. Then welcome, Teresa. Welcome to our family. Family. There was that word again. But this time it meant something different. It wasn't obligation. It wasn't blood that tied you to toxicity. It was choice. It was people who chose you because they wanted to, not because they had to. The weeks went by. I enrolled in an English literature course at a local community center. There, I met people from all over the world. Japanese, Germans, Moroccans, all starting over for different reasons. Daniel and I had dinner together twice a week. On Sundays, we would go to the Portobello Road Market, where I'd buy old books and trinkets I didn't need, but that made me happy. Mrs. Gable taught me how to make a proper shepherd's pie. I taught her how to make my grandmother's biscuits. We became friends. 2 older women who had survived difficult families and now found solace in each other's company. A month after I arrived in London, I received an email. It was from Lauren. Mom, I know you blocked me, but I need you to read this. Robert and I are getting divorced. The house we wanted to buy never happened. Everything fell apart. And I realized something. I realized I became what I hated most. I became Dad. Someone who only came to you when they needed something. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to come back. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry, that I lost my mother because I was a terrible daughter, and I will live with that weight for the rest of my life. I love you, Mom. Even though I no longer have the right to say it. I read the email 3 times. I felt a lump in my throat, but I didn't reply. Not yet. I saved Lauren's email in a folder, unanswered. Not because I was cruel, but because I needed time. Time to process. Time to heal. Time to understand what I'm sorry meant after so many years of humiliation. Daniel found me that afternoon sitting in the small park near our building, watching the children play on the swings. Are you okay, Mom? Lauren wrote to me. He sat next to me on the bench. What did she say? That she's sorry? That she's getting a divorce? That she lost her mother because she was a terrible daughter. And what do you feel? That was the question, wasn't it? What did I feel? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to run back, to hug her, to tell her everything is forgiven. But another part remembers every insult, every slight, every time she made me feel invisible. You don't have to forgive her, Mom. Not yet. Maybe never. And that's okay. Am I a bad person if I don't forgive her? You're a person who is learning to protect herself. That doesn't make you bad. It makes you human. That night, I wrote something I had never written before, a journal. I began to put into words everything I had lived through, everything I had felt, everything I had kept silent for decades. I wrote about Frank and how he had left me for Chantal, about raising 3 children alone while working double shifts, about the humiliations from Jacob and Claire, about Lauren's indifference, about the loneliness of birthdays no one remembered. And I also wrote about London, about waking up without fear, about having coffee at sidewalk cafes without feeling like I was wasting time, about Mrs. Gable and her stories from when she was young, about Ahmed and his mint tea, about Daniel and his hugs that asked for nothing in return. 2 months after I arrived, I had a video call with the foundation. Patricia appeared on the screen with a huge smile. "Teresa, I have to show you something." She turned the camera. They were at the construction site of the new shelter. Freshly painted walls in a soft yellow, large windows letting in the light, gardens where flowers were being planted. "This is all thanks to you," Patricia said. "Look." She focused on a plaque on the entrance wall. It read, "The Teresa Miller Center for Hope, dedicated to all women who deserve a second chance." My eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve this." "Of course you do. You deserve this and more. I want you to know something, Teresa." Last week, a 68-year-old woman arrived. Her family had left her on the street after selling the house she lived in. She was sleeping in Parks. When she got here, she was so ashamed she couldn't even look us in the eye. Patricia paused, wiping away her own tears. We gave her a clean bed, a hot meal, and told her she was welcome here. Last night, she came to me and said, "For the first time in years, I feel like a person, not like garbage." That's what your donation is doing, Teresa. You're saving lives. I cried. I cried in a different way this time, not from pain, but from purpose. My suffering had not been in vain if I could now transform it into help for others. "I want to go," I said suddenly. "When I visit the States again, I want to meet those women. I want to hug them. I want them to know they're not alone. They are going to love you," Patricia said, "because you are one of them." 3 months in London. Autumn was arriving. The leaves on the trees began to change color, filling the streets with shades of orange and gold. I was changing too, little by little, day by day. I no longer woke up with anxiety. I no longer compulsively checked my phone for messages that never came. I no longer felt guilty for existing. One afternoon, Mrs. Gable invited me for tea at her flat. She showed me photos from when she was young, of her husband who had died 20 years ago, of her children who lived in Manchester and visited twice a year if they were lucky. "Don't you feel lonely?" I asked her. "I used to," she admitted, "when I was waiting for my children to fill the emptiness. But then I understood something important. Loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being with people who make you feel alone." Her words resonated in me like a universal truth. "Now I have my friends from the neighborhood," she continued. "My routine, my cats. And I wouldn't trade this peace for anything, not even for the company of children who only look for me when they need something. Your children too. Them too," she confirmed with a sad smile. "Apparently, it's more common than we think. Children who forget their mothers are people too, that they also deserve respect, love, consideration." We sat in silence, 2 older women drinking tea, united by the shared pain of being mothers who gave everything and received very little in return. One day, while walking through Hyde Park, my phone rang. It was a US number. I ignored it, but it rang again, and again, and again. Finally, I answered. "Hello? Mom?" It was Jacob's voice. It sounded different, broken. "What do you want, Jacob?" I need to talk to you. We have nothing left to talk about. Please, Mom. Just listen to me for 5 minutes, please." Something in his voice made me stop. I sat on a park bench. 5 minutes, I said. I heard him take a deep breath on the other end of the line. "Claire left me," he began. "She took the kids. She says I'm a failure, that I could never provide for them properly, that my dad has to pay for everything because I'm useless." I remained silent. "And the worst part is, she's right," he continued. "I'm 40 years old and I've achieved nothing on my own. Everything I had was because of you. The house was yours. The stability we had was because you were there, putting up with everything. And I treated you like garbage." His voice broke. He was crying. "I hate myself, Mom. I hate myself for what I did to you, for how I let Claire treat you, for going to Dad's party on your birthday, for wanting to put you in a home, for everything. And what do you want me to do with that, Jacob?" I asked in a neutral voice. "Tell you it's okay? Forgive you and come back so we can start over?" "No, I don't expect that. I just wanted you to know that you were right, that I'm sorry, that I lost the only person who ever truly loved me, and that now I understand how you felt all those years." "Good," I said simply. "I'm glad you understand. Do you hate me?" I thought about his question. Did I hate him? Once, maybe. But hate requires energy. It requires the other person to still have power over you. I don't hate you, Jacob, but I don't forgive you either. Not yet. Maybe never. And I need you to respect that. I understand. Anything else? Just know that I love you, Mom, even if I have no right to say it. Goodbye, Jacob. I hung up. I sat on that bench, watching people pass by, couples holding hands, families with children, old men feeding pigeons, and I realized something. His apology hadn't made me feel better. It hadn't healed the wounds. It hadn't erased the years of pain. But it hadn't made me feel worse either. And that, in itself, was a kind of healing. That night, Daniel and I had dinner at a pub near Covent Garden. We ordered fish and chips, pints of ale, and for dessert, sticky toffee pudding. "Happy?" Daniel asked, raising his glass. "Yes," I replied, and was surprised to realize it was true. "Yes, I'm happy." "And if Jacob or Lauren asked you to come back? Would you?" "No," I said without hesitation. "This is my life now, and I'm not changing it for anyone." We clinked our glasses. The sound mixed with the laughter from the pub, with the music coming from the street, with the murmur of life happening all around us. Life, that beautiful thing I had forgotten existed. 4 months in London. Mrs. Gable organized a get-together in her flat. She invited all the older women from the building. There were 8 of us. All with different stories, but with the same pain deep down. Families that had forgotten us. Children who only called when they needed something. Husbands who had left or died, leaving us alone. "I propose something," Mrs. Gable said. "Every Sunday we meet. We cook together, we talk, we keep each other company. Let's be the family our families never were." We all agreed. And so our group was born. We called ourselves the Unseen, because we had all felt invisible at some point in our lives. Every Sunday, we would cook dishes from our home countries. I made brisket, Mrs. Gable made shepherd's pie, Fatima made Moroccan couscous, Olga made Polish pierogi, and we talked, without fear, without shame, about our pains, our disappointments, but also about our dreams, our plans, our new freedom. "I thought my life was over when my children stopped visiting," Olga said one afternoon. "But it turns out my life was just beginning." We all nodded, because we all understood. That night, before sleeping, I opened my laptop and finally replied to Lauren's email. "Lauren, I received your message. I have thought about it a great deal before replying. I need you to understand something. Your apology does not erase the pain. It does not cancel out the years of humiliation. It does not bring back the lost time, but I accept it. I accept that you are sorry, and I accept that maybe, someday, when I am ready, not when you need it, but when I am ready, we can talk. Until then, I need you to respect my space and my process. Take care of yourself. Mom." I pressed send, and I felt as if I had closed a door. Not violently, but firmly, with the certainty that some doors need to close so that others can open. 6 months in London. Winter had arrived with a chill that went to the bone, but somehow it felt less cruel than the emotional cold I had lived with in New Jersey. At least this cold could be fought with a good coat and a cup of hot tea. I had found a rhythm. My mornings were for me. I had a slow breakfast, read the paper, walked around the neighborhood. My afternoons were dedicated to video calls with the foundation, where I was now an active board member. I helped make decisions about which women could be admitted, what programs to implement, how to best use the resources. For the first time in my life, I felt useful without feeling used. One December afternoon, while having coffee at my favorite spot, a small cafe near Trafalgar Square, I got a text from an unknown U.S. number. "Mrs. Miller, this is Robert, Lauren's husband. Well, ex-husband. I need to talk to you. It's important. Please." I hesitated. Robert had never reached out to me, not even at the hospital when Lauren had her accident. What could he possibly want now? I dialed the number. "Mrs. Miller?" His voice sounded nervous. "Tell me, Robert. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know I was a terrible son-in-law, but I need you to know something about Lauren." My heart sped up. "What's wrong with Lauren?" "She's in the hospital. Again. She fell down the stairs in her apartment, broke her hip, the same leg that was already operated on." I closed my eyes. My maternal instinct screamed for me to get on the first plane back. But something stronger kept me in my seat. "And you're calling me because she's alone, Mrs. Miller. Completely alone. I'm not with her anymore. Her friends disappeared when she ran out of money. Jacob won't answer her calls. And well, you're in London. And her father? Frank? Chantal? They helped her at first, but Chantal got tired of it. Said Lauren was a burden, that she was always asking for money and favors. Mr. Franklin told her she was an adult and had to learn to solve her own problems. The irony was so cruel it hurt. Chantal, the perfect woman who didn't cry or complain, turned out to be just as human as everyone else. And Frank, the generous father, had his limits after all. "What do you want me to do, Robert?" "I don't know. I just thought you should know. Lauren. She cries for you every night. She says your name in her sleep. She says all she wants is to apologize to you in person. I already answered her email. She knows I heard her. It's not the same, ma'am, and you know it." He was right. It wasn't the same. But that didn't mean I had to run to her rescue. "Thank you for letting me know, Robert. But Lauren is an adult. As her father correctly said, she has to learn to solve her own problems. Mrs. Miller." "Goodbye, Robert." I hung up. My hands were shaking. I ordered another coffee even though I'd already had two. I needed something to do with my hands, with the anxiety that was washing over me. Daniel showed up an hour later. I had texted him and he left work to come. "What happened, Mom?" I told him everything. He listened in silence without interrupting. "Do you want to go?" he finally asked. "I don't know. Part of me feels I have to, that I'm her mother, and mothers don't abandon their children, no matter what. But she abandoned you. That was different. Why? Because you were the mother? Because mothers are supposed to endure everything? Forgive everything? Forget everything?" I was silent. Because he was right. All my life I had believed that mothers had to be martyrs, that our love had to be unconditional, even when our children's love came with conditions. "You know what I think, Mom?" Daniel continued. "I think you can love someone and still choose yourself. I think you can wish them well without sacrificing your own peace of mind. I think it's okay to set boundaries, even with your own children. What if she dies alone? What if something happens to her and I wasn't there? Then it will be sad. But it won't be your fault. You are not responsible for saving people who spent years destroying you." I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Lauren, alone in a hospital, of my little girl, who was once my little girl, suffering. But I also thought of myself, of how I had arrived in London broken, empty, with nothing left to give, of how I had slowly rebuilt myself, of how for the first time in decades, I felt like a whole person, and not like a piece of myself divided among the needs of others. Was it worth risking that peace? The next day, I called Patricia from the foundation. "Teresa, so good to hear from you. Is everything all right? I need some advice." I told her the situation. She listened in a way only someone who has lived through the same thing can. "Can I be brutally honest with you?" she asked. "Please. If you go, you will relapse. You will go back to that place where your worth depends on how much you sacrifice, where your identity is just mom and nothing else. And everything you've built here, all this healing, will be set back years. But she's my daughter, and you are a person who deserves to protect herself. Teresa, I have seen so many women go back to their toxic families because they're family. And you know what happens? They come back destroyed, worse than before. Because now they carry not only the abuse, but the guilt of having tried to save themselves and failed. So what do I do? Just leave her there? You already answered her email. You already told her you heard her apology. You can send her money for the hospital if you want. You can have limited contact. But to go in person, to go back to the States, to get into that dynamic again, that's emotional suicide. Her words echoed in my mind for days. I talked to Mrs. Gable. I talked to the other women in our group. They all said the same thing. Taking care of myself didn't make me a bad person. I decided on a middle ground. I transferred money to Lauren's account, enough to cover her medical expenses. I sent her a message. Lauren, I heard about your accident. Here is the money for your surgery and recovery. I hope you get well soon, but I am not coming. I need to continue taking care of myself. I hope you understand. Mom? Her reply came hours later. Thank you, Mom, for the money and for being honest. I wouldn't come either if I were you. I love you, and I respect your decision. For the first time, her words sounded genuine. No manipulation, no emotional blackmail. Just genuine. Christmas arrived in London. Daniel and I spent it together. We cooked a turkey. Well, he tried to cook a turkey and I had to rescue it. We had dinner with the unseen at Mrs. Gable's flat, and we exchanged small but meaningful gifts. Mrs. Gable gave me a hand-knitted shawl. So you'll never be cold, she said, hugging me. I gave her a framed photo of all of us. We had taken it the week before in Hyde Park. 8 older women smiling, arms linked, with a freedom in their eyes that only comes from surviving hell and making it to the other side. Family, I had written on the back, the kind you choose. That night, while Daniel washed the dishes and I dried, my phone vibrated. It was a video from Jacob. I hesitated to open it, but finally did. It was a short video. Jacob was in a small apartment, clearly not the house he had lost. He looked tired, older than a man of 40 should. Mom, he said to the camera, I know you might not see this, but I wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas. The kids wanted to say hi too. Here they are. The camera moved. My 3 grandchildren appeared. Paul, 9. Sophie, 7. And little Matthew, 5. Merry Christmas, Grandma, they said in unison. Sophie added, I miss you. Grandma Chantal says you're mad at us, but I don't want you to be mad. The video ended. I cried. I couldn't help it, because those children were not to blame. They hadn't chosen to have toxic parents. They hadn't asked to be in the middle of this family disaster. Daniel hugged me. You can love them without being near them, he reminded me. You can want what's best for them without destroying yourself in the process. He was right. I sent them a video in response, just for the children. Hello, my loves. Merry Christmas. I love you all very much. I am not mad at you. I could never be mad at you. I'm in London, learning to be happy. Someday when you're older, you'll understand why Grandma had to go away. I love you. Always. I didn't mention Jacob or Claire. The message was just for them. Jacob's reply came the next day. Thank you, Mom. The kids are so happy. And I just want you to know that I understand. That if I could go back in time, I would do everything differently. Merry Christmas. New Year's Eve arrived with fireworks over the Thames. Daniel and I watched from his balcony, with glasses of champagne in hand. A toast, Daniel said, raising his glass. To second chances, to brave mothers, to you, Mom, to you, my love, I replied. For being the son every mother deserves. Big Ben chimed in the distance. We watched the sky light up. My wishes for the new year were simple. Peace, health, and the strength to keep choosing myself, even when the whole world told me I was being selfish. Because I had learned something in these 6 months. Taking care of yourself isn't selfishness. It's survival, and I had survived.